I want to talk about conflict. Most certainly everybody is involved in some kind of conflict, part of life, but seldom are we given solutions to conflict. We think it's this difficult problem that we must solve, and we might spend days, years even, trying to find a solution to this conflict or problem. And after being a student of life for about 30 or 40 years, I discovered the proper solution. I discovered it through the I Ching, or I Ching, and it's very clear as to what we should do during times of conflict. We must return to a position of balance, peace, and neutrality. At some other point, the I Ching proposes that our greatest asset is a peace of mind, and this ties right into that as well. The fruit of balance, neutrality, detachment, our peace of mind. And I love the ancient wisdom, so different than what we're taught in our culture. Our culture would encourage us to fight, to buffalo our way through the adversity. And the I Ching is the absolute opposite. Very liberating to discover that the solution to all of our problems is actually the same, doesn't cost anything, and in my opinion brings the greatest reward. Today I've come across a video with a big capital G. I think it's safer that I call it Bigfoot, but I also think it's much more than this idea. Here is a creature that can be seen on a mountaintop, and we're going to look at that today. Thank you for being here. God bless. I love you all, and welcome. Okay, so let's zoom out and look at some of the ruins that I've been chasing. Here we can see Utah, up here Green River and Rock Springs, Wyoming, down here Grand Junction, Colorado, and up here Salt Lake City. As far as major cities, we have Denver over here, and pretty much Denver to Salt Lake City is about 354 miles, or 570 kilometers. And there's really nothing. This stretch is one of the greatest uninhabited parts of the Southwest. Many such parts, but here I want to focus on ruins with no history. You'll remember in a past video I said, how would we know if something was a ruin or a pre-Columbus ruin? Something from a more ancient people than ourselves. And in my opinion, it would be again twofold. There would either be no history or there would be a stupid history. And in that video, we were down here in that little town of Helper, and we were even further up in the canyon in the middle of nowhere. And here we did have a story of miners building all these block walls and building a whole city, in fact, in a year, and tennis courts and a theater, only to be essentially abandoned once the mine closed. So a great temporary town, essentially. Standardville. Here we can see it. And of course up here in the middle of nowhere, again, we have this Bamberger monument, the Simon Bamberger monument. Oh, they don't even give us a picture now. You see, since I've made my video, this is what we get now. Just a little corner. Really? Yep, that's it. And here we did have a silly history that some prisoners built this. Again, there's not even a path to it. Kind of have to bushwhack a little to get to it. And technically, I guess you could park here. This is the parking lot, this little pull-off. Very dangerous with large oil field trucks going by. But my favorite part was all the block work down here. Somebody had made a giant block wall wrapping around here. We can even see more down here on the other side of the road. And it was the same blocks that the abandoned town of Standardville was made of. And I'll inject some pictures of that, as we can't see anything from the Google Earth. We do see a little corner here. Here I have dropped the man, and we can get a little taste. But I'll inject some pictures, of course. And there we can see the Simon Monument. So here we have history, here we have no history. And yet it's all together. These are not separate. And it was very exciting to me because we see these further up, as I'll show you, in the middle of nowhere. So here we can see this trail. And this is an extra wasteland area. The only people that care about this area are people affiliated with big oil. And me. So here we can see the first example. And let's see if we can drop the man. Okay, we're in. There we go. There we go. So there it is. You see it? Block walls poking out of the ground. Most people are driving 70 miles an hour and not looking around. Maybe peeking at the formations. But this is my trail. This is an ancient road. And we see the ancient road. And I knew the ancient road was here, hence why I found this. Of course, a car. Here we go. We can see it a little better, and I'll inject my footage in here. And the ancient road is very clear once you see it. And I've been following this particular vein for 100 miles. And I'm sure it goes in all directions. And here she is. Next, we're going to go further down here a little. And let's get a little measurement of distance. We're going to go approximately 3 miles. 3 miles down the road. And the Department of Transportation and big oil or big energy is always nearby these sites. These old world sites. And they're always a stone's throw away, reaping havoc. Here they've put some ponds, disposal ponds. But look at the mess they've made out here. Why? And I don't think so. This is something else that has been erased intentionally. And just stupid. The Bureau of Land Management gets an F from me. So does the state of Utah. But anyway, here we can see my second site. And look how they've put their bastardly little logo here, right by my site. The maintenance shed. So I haven't even seen a shed out here. Perhaps they plan on building one right over these ruins. And how ironic, their logo is a little old world building. But anyway, they know. Somebody knows, because you would have to know. You're utilizing an ancient road. And certainly while they're surveying it and building it, they're finding the ruins all throughout this realm, I'm convinced. And here you can see the old road next to the new one. And down here, way off of the road, completely unnecessarily, are these ruins. You can't see them, but there's a massive stone wall down here, and I'll inject my footage. And as we continue down this canyon, there's more stone wall here, and especially over here, that I've called 2.5. And I hate sharing this, honestly, because I feel like I'm tipping them off. They've already done such a number, like across the street here. Here I'm finding breadcrumbs of walls. But up here, look at what they've done. Just erase this area for nothing, for absolutely nothing. There's not even anything going on up here. And if I can find them, I'll inject some pictures of this. They've now gated it off right here, but I do have footage. And when I visited this site, it was clearly ruins. Just this area had been rocked, and they had come up here and scraped everything away as much as they can, similar to over here. But anyway, now we move over here. I'm gonna guess another 3 miles based on this one to this one. We've got about 3 more miles over here. And this is my most recent discovery. This one I knew had all the signs of ruins because I could see the old road off of the highway right here, you can see it, and it kind of slams into the mountain and disappears. And very crude, just very crude and dirt and seeming like nothing. The vistas here are really beautiful, just looking like a castle. And here I managed to scale down here and find block walls right along here. Just as I suspected, because this is an old road and these ruins are found along this road. And I'll inject pictures of that. We will drop the man down here. See if we can see anything. Well, a great blob. Let's move it over a little. And we get a truck. So yes, the ruins are right back here behind the truck. If you've ever been out here, you'll know that it's a pretty dysfunctional area. But yeah, the old ruins back here, back at the base of this cooked out mess. All of it. And it was really fascinating, actually. I hiked up here with Chief, and all of this is concrete. It's just all concrete, all the white, just chunks. I'll try to stick pictures of that in. So this road never lets me down. These are some of the best examples I found in just a stupid place. And again, no history. And then I'll just conclude, as far as this little 10-mile stretch is concerned, with the site that originally piqued my interest to all of these walls, and it's this one here. So here again we can see the old road, and I believe that this old road was discovered and paved, similar to the entire Lincoln Highway, and then they made a larger highway next to it. And I also believe that the larger highway is also older. But I think that the larger one would have been used for rail, and the smaller one may have been something else. Again, this is where we see the ruins. We can see it wrapping around these right angles, and actually very baffling, this structure. We can see that they paved over it and even put some crappy wood on top of this stone just to facilitate their paving. There would have been a bridge, but the old ruins had nothing to do with the wood or this asphalt that we can still see on top here. And yeah, this is where it all began, was with this particular site. And now I'm finding these blocks in every direction. And this morning I'm pondering evil. How would you know evil? I think it's hard in the moment to recognize it. I think it's easier after an encounter with evil. How do you feel? This might be so within yourself. Maybe it was you who did evil, and you might regret it later. Only time will tell. If you have free time, if your time is not being polluted by external ideas, then I think all realizations will come to pass. So this brought me to my next question is, what does evil really want? A lot of people say money, and personally I don't think so. I think the people say in control have enough money. It's not enough at a certain point. At a certain point, there are greater things than money. Everyone can agree on this, I think. So in short, I think evil wants your attention and your time. And I pondered a little more on whether or not these were the same thing. Your time, your attention, serving as a distraction, again, to all of the realizations and understandings that you may naturally come to possess if you had free time and attention. Attention is very important. It perhaps is different than time. It's like a part of it. What are you focusing on in this time or in this moment? And for the greater part of 20 years, I've been a self-proclaimed student of Taoism. Taoism is not a religion, but a way of being or understanding. And you could place your attention on a million things, it seems like. But it's really not true. We have limited senses, 4 or 5 or 6, depending on who you are. And I mean sense of sight, hearing, taste, sense of the body, pain, pleasure. our breath, our heartbeat. We can sense these things. And then there is the mind. I think when we're young, we exist in the primary senses, experiencing the world, and then we are taught to perceive it through the mind, through ideas of the world and ideas of ourselves. And these are not true, but most people will die thinking so. And these ideas will also keep us in the mind, locked in the mind. Even while the other senses are being flooded, we will filter these senses through the mind. And especially going back to evil, if evil commands our attention, distracts us, then all of our senses and our peace of mind can be hijacked. In Taoist thought, the mind has been compared to a monkey, a wild monkey, sometimes a wild horse. And I think there are two parts to ourselves. And there have been many races before us, I believe. And I think we are the byproduct of some kind of experiment. So I can't believe I'm just now seeing this video from 2001. It's called the Marble Mountain Bigfoot, and I think they love when we say Bigfoot. And it is not too untrue. This creature that we're gonna check out will have had a very big foot. And so these guys are just camping, Boy Scout troop and some other people. And what is that anyway? What are we seeing there? A giant tree stump or the remains of an old castle? A marble castle. I just recently went to the Salt Lake Capitol, and it was like a marble castle in there. Just beautiful. I've never actually strolled through there on the inside. But here we are at this marble mountain, and up here we see these people examining this little fortress that's been made out of trees. And everything has just been snapped by hand. No chainsaw used, just giant trees snapped by hand. And I'm sure some of you have seen this. I see it all the time, just a giant tree twisted. And what would twist a tree? And in this case, twist and rip. And anyway, this is a common theme for Bigfoots. And again, I'm looking at this from a more intelligent perspective. I think typically the Bigfoot is portrayed as, if anything, some lost, endangered, wild animal. And this is a perfect castle-looking mountain. And suddenly, I don't know how, but somebody sees a creature up there. And there you can see how enormous this thing would have to be. There's a giant tree up there, and then this thing is like the size of the giant tree, maybe half the size, but huge to be on the highest point of the mountain. And it's been said that the large foot people, I mean like really, really large, have a telepathic ability to really get into your mind. And I think that this person filming was tipped off by this telepathy, the strong telepathic signal. And this creature is upset, and these people are pretty scared. One man is very composed, and here we can see the creature in between two trees, two giant trees. And we can also see him flailing his hands and upset, and this really reminding me of the video that I once showed in Peru by Gladys Cordova, and the large-footed creatures scaling down the mountain at great speeds with almost kind of an angelic glow, kind of a superhuman feel. And now this thing continues coming down the mountain, slightly walking towards them, and we can really listen to the sounds of what the people are saying, and I think it really validates this video. Not to mention this is 2001, crusty footage, probably a camera that took tape, I don't know. But we have about 6 minutes of it. And is this person wearing clothes, or is it hairy like a Bigfoot? I can't completely tell. It almost looks like a furred covering, but then very thin around the ankles. And here, when we back up, we can see how absolutely giant this thing would have to be. And here we see a lot of anger and waving of the hands. And it really seems to coincide with what the people are saying. One of the boys, young Boy Scout, I guess, is a real jerk, and he starts saying things like, we should shoot it. And you can visibly see the creature react to this, and there's no way a person would ever hear that all the way on top of a mountain. And that's exactly where I would be if I was person of the large foot category. You would have to, and you are completely threatened by the people surrounding you. There would have to be people left over from the past civilization, and they would be persecuted. And we have heard such accounts in the military of hunting down the large foot in, I believe, Afghanistan. Large, red-haired, spear-wielding man who was taken out and brought into a facility. And I actually feel for these creatures. When we look at past depictions of the old world, often we see small and large man living harmoniously side by side. So let me know what you think. Have you seen this video before? I think I've watched it 100 times. I'll try to inject better footage. But next I want to look at ruins in my area. Ruins with no history that I think ties in well with this man. This poor displaced man with a very, very large stature. So I thank you for this week. I think I've gone a little long. God bless, and I'll see you next week.